රැස් විහිදෙන ජීවිතේ.
Kidney diseases have plagued villages of Madukare for many years. For 335 families that once relied on impure water, there's some hope. A water purification project by Gammadda. Gammadda, for the people, by the people.
Hello there and a very good afternoon. You're watching Lunchtime News on TV1. This is News First, where the people come first. I'm Mariam Gunavijaya. We start off with the look at the headlines.
Bus fares increased. Minimum fare 40 rupees. IOC for all consumers. Sipedco for selected vehicles. Public transportation hampered by fuel shortage. Tensions at passport office. $126 Kandakadu escapees missing. Ferdinand Marcos sworn in as Philippines president, replacing Duterte.
In your lead story this afternoon, the Sri Lanka Transport Commission has granted permission to increase bus fares by 22% from midnight. The minimum bus fare has been increased to 40 rupees from 32 rupees. Now this applies to both buses run privately and by the Sri Lanka Transport Board.
සියයට 32.04ක බස් ගාස්තුවක් වැඩි විය යුතුයි. නමුත්
bus fares need to be increased by 32.04%. We increased bus fares last April. According to our estimates, it should have been increased by 24.76%. However, considering the increase in the exchange rate and the increase in the price of spare parts, we obtained permission from the then Transport Minister to increase fares by 35%. The minimum fare is currently at 32 rupees. This will be increased to 40 rupees. All other fares will be increased by 22 rupees. This will be in effect from midnight.
22කින් වැඩි වෙනවා. ඒ අනුව අද මධ්‍යම රාත්‍රියෙන් පසුව මෙම බස් ගාස්තුව වැඩිවීම සිදු වෙනවා. මේ බස් ගාස්තුව වැඩිවීම සාමාන්‍ය සේවා, අර්ධ සුඛෝපභෝගී සේවා, සුඛෝපභෝගී සේවා, අධි සුඛෝපභෝගී සේවා යන සියලුම සේවාවන් වලට අදාළ වෙනවා. පෞද්ගලික සහ ශ්‍රී ලංකම බස් රථවලටත් මෙම බස් ගාස්තු වැඩිවීම අදාළ වෙනවා.
At least 2 people have been arrested by law enforcement officers for hiding stocks of fuel. The police special task force officers have arrested a man for hiding fuel worth 900,000 rupees in Girandurukote. They had recovered 1,900 litres of diesel and 20 litres hidden behind a store. The suspect is a 42-year-old resident of the same area.
අහිංසක මිනිස්සුන්ට කුඹරක් කරගන්න මම සෙට් කරලා තියෙන්නේ බලපත්‍රයක් තියනවාද නෑ හරි අපිට වාහන ගේන්න මේ පටවන් ඔයාලා ඇස්තින පොලිසියට යන්න
The police have seized 150 litres of diesel hidden at a house in Horopatana. Our correspondent reported that equipment used to resell fuel had also been seized during the raid. A 66-year-old man who was taken into custody is to be produced in court. The fuel crisis has affected the lives of the people across Sri Lanka. Let's take a look at the situation in the country today. Some students were seen using a bullock cart to travel to school this morning. Badulla, students had to face difficulties when returning home after school. Trains were packed with passengers even this morning. Our cameras captured how passengers had travelled from Ragama to Colombo on a train. This was the situation in Panadura. Now, many government institutions are limiting services as the fuel crisis has made transportation difficult. The National Transport Medical Institute says it will not be open on Fridays and Saturdays starting from the 1st of July. In a statement, it said bookings can be made to obtain services by contacting 225 on a mobile phone or 1225 on a landline. The Department of Motor Traffic says it will not be open on Thursdays and Fridays from today. The Foreign Minister's Consular Affairs Division will also be open only on Monday, Wednesday and Saturday. Tensions flared at the Consular Affairs Division of the Foreign Ministry today.
People are complaining that they have been affected by the decision of the Foreign Ministry's Consular Affairs Division to limit services. Tensions arose opposite the Kurunegala office of the Department of Immigration and Immigration today. This is due to an issue in obtaining tokens to receive services. Our correspondent reported that services were disrupted for about an hour. There were around 930 people yesterday when they stopped operations for the day. They had implemented a system on how they are going to carry out operations. They have issued numbers again last night and formed a new queue. We have been here for 3 days and now we have to stand at the back of the line. I came to Sri Lanka after spending 7.5 years overseas, thinking that I can live here in Sri Lanka, but I have no choice but to go overseas once again.
Lanka IOC has asked all of its buses to be involved in the distribution of fuel. Lanka IOC Private Bus Owners Association Chairman Kusum Sadanayaka says between 75 and 100 buses operate daily. Lanka IOC has about 160 fuel buses. The CPC Private Fuel Buses Owners Association says it will not distribute fuel to Sipatco filling stations. While fuel is being sold from the Kolanava Petroleum Storage Terminal for selected lists, many people are in queues to pump fuel for their vehicles. People in Kantale blocked 2 fuel buses as they were passing through the area. They held a protest opposite the Lanka IOC filling station in Kantale. The army intervened to bring the situation under control.
ලංකා හැමතැනම මිනිස්සුන්ට ඩීසල් ටික යන්න ඕනේ තෙල් ටික යන්න ඕනේ මෙතන. කන්තලේ උන්ට විතරක් නෙමෙයි. කන්තලේ උන්ට අපි අනන්තවත් තෙල් ටික ගහලා දෙනවා. ආයෙ වහන වුණ බලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. මේ තේරෙන භාෂාවෙන් කියන්නේ හොතට. තේරෙන භාෂාවෙන්. තේරෙනවද? නොතේරෙන භාෂාවෙන් කතා ගන්න තියන්න එපායි. අනිත් උන්ටත් එක්ක කියන්න මේ. ජනවත් එක්ක තමයි කරන්නේ. පාරේ. පාර මොකකින් තව. අයි පාරේ ඉන්නේ. පාර ක්ලියර් කරලා දෙන්න හොඳින්. හොඳින් ක්ලියර් කරලා දෙන්න බැයි නම් ක්ලියර් කරලා දෙන්න ඕගලන්ට බැයි නම් අපිත් ගන්න රාජකාරිය. තමුසලා වගේම තමයි අපිත්. අපි එළිය වෙනකම් මේකේ රාජකාරිය. Tensions arose between a person in the queue and an army officer.
The protest was called off based on a promise made by the officer in charge of the Kandakadu police. The Haliala filling station received petrol stocks last night. Tensions arose when army officers announced that fuel will be sold to people who received tokens for 5 days only from this morning. For 6 days, people have been in queues opposite the Lanka IOC filling station at the Horana town. Drivers complained that the filling station had not received new stocks for many days. Drivers and conductors of buses from the Sri Lanka Transport Board's bus depot in Puttalam refrained from carrying out their services. They demanded fuel for workers to travel to the bus depot from their homes. A ritual was organised in Anuradhapura demanding the resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. A group of locals had organised a protest at the Jayantipura Ganadevi Devalaya. People of Uva Paranagama held a protest demanding the resignation of the government.
Meanwhile, Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka Zhao Hong has met several government officials yesterday.
Chinese ambassador Zhao Hong had met with the investment promotion minister Dhammika Pereira yesterday. The Chinese embassy tweeted that he had discussed promoting Chinese investment projects in Sri Lanka. The Chinese envoy had also met with parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa. They had discussed improving cooperation between the Chinese Communist Party and the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna.
The government has published the bill on the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution. The bill had received cabinet approval when it was submitted by Justice Minister Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa. Now the bill is to be submitted in Parliament for approval. Moving on, the Consumer Affairs Authority has published a new set of details that must be printed on the package of products.
The Consumer Affairs Authority says the following details must be included in the packing of every product with effect from 28th July. This includes the maximum retail price, weight, date of manufacture, date of expiry, batch number, name, registered address and contact number of manufacturer, and if the product is imported, the country, name, address, contact number and website of the issuer or importer must be mentioned.
261 inmates who had escaped from the Kandakadu Rehabilitation Center in Polonnaruwa yesterday have been incarcerated once again. This was after they were produced before the Valikanda courts.
598 inmates have been placed under police custody so far. The inmates are to be presented to the Polonnaruwa Magistrate Court after recording their statements. Police spokesperson SSP Nihal Thalduwa said a search operation is underway to locate the other escapees.
The Electricity Users Association convened a media briefing today to address attempts to increase electricity tariffs by 83%.
They should supply electricity throughout the day if they want to increase electricity tariffs like this. They increased gas prices, but there is no gas in the market. They increased the price of fuel, but there is no fuel. Now they are trying to increase the cost of electricity, but there is no electricity. Most Sri Lankans are low-income earners. The CEB has requested an 800% tariff increase from the Public Utilities Commission, but they adjusted that. The Public Utilities Commission must reject this.
In news overseas, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has been sworn in as the Philippine president in a ceremony in Manila. He is succeeding the outgoing leader Rodrigo Duterte.
His inauguration marks a stunning comeback for the Marcos political dynasty, which was ousted after a popular revolt in 1986. Marcos Jr. won an election landslide last month. Sara Duterte, the daughter of the outgoing president, is being sworn in as vice president. Marcos Jr. took his oath at his office in a colorful ceremony at the National Museum today. The 64-year-old leader is inheriting a country still on the road to recovery from a years-long pandemic and an economic outlook clouded by skyrocketing inflation and rising debt.
In cricket news this afternoon, the second day of the first test between Sri Lanka and Australia has been delayed due to bad weather. Heavy rains and strong winds were experienced at the Galle International Stadium earlier today, causing the roof of some tents to be completely blown off. Australia were at 98 for the loss of 3 wickets at the end of the day's play yesterday, trailing behind Sri Lanka's first innings total of 212 runs. Well, with that, we wrap up this news, lunchtime news on TV1. For the Newsfirst team and Mariam Dinujaya, have yourself a great day and take care.